Hello, everyone, and good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today for our August Committee of the Whole work session to set the agenda. With that, I'm going to officially call our meeting to order with a roll call of board members that are present. Mrs. Bibla.
Here.
Mr. Boone.
Here.
Mr. Brogna.
Here.
Mrs. Haddix.
Here.
Mrs. McGovern.
Here.
Mrs. McCurdy.
Here.
Mrs. Spath.
Here.
Mr. Swank.
Here.
And I'm Mr. Costello. We have 9 board members present. At this time, Mr. Mahalik, will you please share with us what administrators are on for today's session?
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you to our Crestwood school community for joining us on this 13th of August. We have Mr. Blanchard. He is our Director of Technology. We have Mrs. Bonnie Gregory. She is our elementary principal for the Rice campus. We have Mr. John Gorham. He is our secondary principal of student affairs. We have Mr. Kevin Sayre, our elementary principal at our Fairview campus. We have Mrs. Peg Foster, our secondary principal, academic affairs. I also see Mr. Peter Bard, who is our business manager. And I believe I have everyone. I know Mrs. Harris said she would be joining us. She's in a IEP meeting right now, and as soon as that's over, I don't think she got here yet. So that is our administrative team at this time, Mr. President.
I see Scott Brummagem.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Boone. Mr. Scott Brummagem, our Buildings and Grounds Director, is also with us. Sorry about that, Scott.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mahalik, and thank you for all of our administrative team that is on our call today to get through this as clearly and as we possibly can. Just a few housekeeping things for all those people that are joining us today live via the Facebook, as well as I am going to have our technology director speak to you a little bit about our YouTube channel in just a moment. But as the committee agendas are being chaired by our chair committee members, they'll go through their agenda. They'll ask for questions that are associated from the group's board members, as well as then they'll open it up to board member questions and comments. And then we will open up questions and comments via Facebook Messenger or on the Facebook comments, whatever you can. We'll open that up and we'll answer those questions at the conclusion of each committee. So we'll have that dialogue before we adjourn a committee and move for another one. So try to just ask the questions as we enter into that specific committee so they don't get lost. If we were asking a question about transportation, but it won't be then till the end, it might get lost in the shuffle. So once we open those up, we'll move slowly to make sure everybody gets any questions and comments answered. At this time, I do want to introduce Mr. Blanchard to speak a little bit about our YouTube channel for the Crestwood School District for all those individuals that don't have Facebook, as well as providing a new medium for us to be able to stream maybe a little bit better. So Mr. Blanchard, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Costello. Welcome, everyone. Yes, I just wanted to let everyone know I'm going to post a link in our Facebook chat. So obviously, if you're watching us now, that link will direct you to our newest YouTube page. We do plan going forward to live stream to YouTube. We know that for some individuals that do not have access to Facebook or those type of social media mediums, you could go to YouTube with no account and be able to watch it. We are also posting all our videos that Mr. Mahalik or any other videos that come out of the district will be posted on YouTube also. So you can still find things on Facebook, but going forward, we will be switching to go live on YouTube.
Thank you so much, Damien, and thank you for your hard work getting that all set up for our community. We really appreciate it. Mr. Mahalik, if you have some opening comments you want to share before we start our agendas, and then you may call your first committees for the meeting.
Sure, thank you. If I may, I'd like to welcome the 150 participants of our community. We really appreciate the involvement. And again, we'll continue our meetings in this form, even when the time comes that we will be able to revert back to in person. But this, we know so many of you have said, is either convenient or you're homebound. And so we really just appreciate you being a part. As most have seen, are heard. The district did have to make a pivot, and I'm just going to go to black screen here because I'm hearing that I'm delayed a little bit, so this may help. We did have to make a change on the 10th of August, the early afternoon. We were provided with some updated guidance from the Pennsylvania Department of Education and the Pennsylvania Department of Health. The guidelines and strong recommendations were reviewed by the district, and seeing the information that was presented to us through the new model that the state is looking at, Luzerne County is in the moderate zone. There's 3 zones: low, moderate, and substantial. We are currently in the moderate zone, and with that, we really had to take a step back from our full return. So I know this is sudden for the community. We apologize. It's sudden for the district. We have been working on our return and all the aspects that go with that full return for many, many, many weeks and many, many, many hours. However, we are prepared to shift, and we have announced our shift. And I want to announce that this coming Wednesday, which is August 19th at 6 p.m., we will hold a town hall meeting, as we have been doing daily. But this town hall meeting will be directed specifically to our secondary distance learning model. So Wednesday, August 19th, it will begin at 6 p.m. We are going to do a town hall meeting for our distance learning in the secondary campus, an opportunity for our community to get on, speak with myself, Mrs. Foster, Mr. Gorham, Mr. Blanchard, Mr. Brummagem will be there, Mr. Ambosi will be there, and Mrs. Harris will be there, so we can discuss all things distance learning for our 7th through 12th grade program. The following Monday, August 24th, we will then have a town hall meeting, again beginning at 6 p.m., and this will center around our elementary distance learning model. So we're going to certainly put this out for our community. I will tell you that we have to cap both meetings at 500. That's the maximum amount of participants that our Zoom allows. Mr. Blanchard will set up the subscription for you to get on and enroll to be a part of the town hall. That will be coming your way probably by Monday, if not sooner. So at that time, we will certainly be prepared to much better communicate our plan moving forward. And again, answer any and all questions that you may have, and certainly derive from your questions things that maybe we need to have better prepared for the opening of school. So there is obviously a lot going on. I think so very much my administrative team, as well as our faculty. Administration will tell you that our faculty have been working with us minute by minute, day by day, and they are really just very, very dedicated and devoted staff. And I'm eternally grateful to them, Mr. President, because I can tell you the things that they are doing is really helping us to meet these challenges with very, very short deadlines. Mr. President, if I may, I'd just like to read just a little piece about what a virtual distance learning in Crestwood is going to look like. This has been emailed to our families. If I could just have 3 more minutes, I'd like to let you know that the Crestwood School District's virtual distance learning program will look, feel, and operate completely differently than the distance learning program that students experienced this past spring. Our students will have opportunities for live instruction and be fully assessed in their learning. That fully assessed is much, much different than what we did in the spring. Most importantly, it will reflect the high standards of a Crestwood School District education. All programming will follow the district's curriculum and will be taught by our outstanding Crestwood School District teachers. With a blend of synchronous and asynchronous instruction, that will vary depending upon what is developmentally appropriate for each grade level. Students will follow a daily schedule that is very similar to the regular schedule they would be following when they were in school. They will participate in synchronous live instruction with their teacher throughout each day. They will also complete work independently. During this independent time, the teacher or other staff may also work with students individually or in small groups to support their learning, and our students may work with peers. The ultimate goal is for the virtual environment to mirror the in-school environment as closely as possible. On-demand lessons will be available so students may review concepts that are covered during our live sessions. That little snippet and some more information was shared with all of our families through Skyward Messenger. Mr. Blanchard will be posting that also on our Facebook and our district website. But there's much, much more information to come along, and we are still developing our communication plan for our families. We know that this is a very, very trying time, and we want to do everything we can to minimize that on the families. So, Mr. Costello, I again thank you so very much, and I thank the support of the Crestwood Board of Education.
Mr. Mahalik, we just want to share from the board's perspective, just a true appreciation for you communicating and taking the time to work as diligently as you and your entire staff do to communicate with our community as much as possible. And you know, we have a very good relationship between our board, our faculty, staff, and administration, and we joke quite a bit, but we really are appreciative of you taking it above and beyond to make sure that our community knows step by step everything's going on. And we are well under the impression that we know things are going to change rapidly, and things continue to change rapidly every single day. And we just really appreciate you keeping not only the board, but the entire community in the loop of everything going on for the education. So thank you on that. And with that, Mr. Mahalik, we do have a guest speaker today to share presentations, and then you may, once we're finished with that, you may go right into your call your committees forward to begin. Thank
Wonderful.
you.
Wonderful. I do believe we are going to begin with Mr. Marty Beam from the Siemens Group. Marty and his team have been doing a tremendous amount of work on our campus. A very, very large project that began years ago with the planning. And as you'll hear, the timing could not have been better for what we undertook as a district, because the areas that they tended to are the exact areas that we want to make sure are functioning the best possible manner, because it could go a long way for helping the spread of this virus. So, Mr. Beam, I know you and your team are here. We will give it to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mahalik, and thank you to the board for hearing us this afternoon. The team has presented a slideshow, and Brian Willett will be our presenter, along with Eric Kelstern and Bill Tagney and myself if needed. So Brian, at this point, please take it away.
Okay, just bear with me 1 second as we get this started. And Bill Tagney will lead us off.
Yeah, hi everyone. Good afternoon. Just want to appreciate the time that you're giving us to come to the district and review with you a bunch of different things. But I just want to say, I just want to congratulate you as far as the hard work that you guys are doing. I understand, during these trying times, it's super challenging. Staff, administration, community, and students, and all. So just want to say you guys are doing a great job, and congratulate you on that. But, with that, to kind of kick things off, as far as what we wanted to kind of hit on today, a couple of different points. So, Ryan, next slide. So we wanted to bring you up to speed as far as where we were with the current project. We started construction, after authorization last November. So we want to just kind of hit on where we are, current milestones, and where we are. But also with the current situation with COVID-19, there's mitigation strategies that we've been implementing, but also down the road as far as what we see and where we can help the district, within the buildings. So we want to hit on that too as well. And then thirdly, we're looking at the high school right now as far as not only adding air conditioning, but some additional work, and we want to go over the scope and what's related with that. And then lastly, in regard to that scope of the high school, flexible financing approaches that we can take that will alleviate any strain within the district and make it as attractive as we can as far as for Crestwood. So with that, the current project that we're doing right now, and we've been very active in all the facilities, and I'll hit on a couple of different points as far as where the scope of the work, but lastly, as far as where we are right now and what's left, all that we've upgraded all the lighting within the buildings, building envelope work has been done. At the elementary schools, Fairview and Rice, we've added in all new and replaced all new rooftop units and put in VAV boxes, added cooling. So that's all up and running. The new units also that we targeted over at the high school, they've been installed, as well as the middle school too, as well as far as rooftop units. And lastly, as far as where we are in the middle school, as far as upgrading the cooling, we're working on the classroom unit vents right now, and we have that targeted to finish up by the end of next week. So we put together an aggressive schedule when we started that we would be ready and up with cooling and all the majority of the work by Labor Day. And so we're hitting those targets, and we're very happy that we're doing that. And then the last two items, we're replacing domestic hot water heaters, and where it had an impact as far as in the kitchens, we brought in temporaries to help offset any inconveniences. And so we hope to get that finished up at the end of this week. And then lastly, we're working on punch items right now. So we're working with the administration, and Scott to identify, where those are and finish up the project and with substantial completion at the end of this month. And with that, we're looking to target, starting warranty period as September 1st. So what I did here is just to kind of bring you up to speed and kind of remind everyone as far as all the work, where it was. It's broken down into two areas, the base project, and then what we did as far as added cooling to the middle school. But as part of the base project, all the district lighting was upgraded. We upgraded rooftop units, in the high school and the middle school. Same with Rice and Fairview, all the units were replaced. There's over 40 units combined in both of those schools. Added all new building automation and controls, to not only see and monitor what's going on, but to improve the efficiency within the classrooms and the facilities. And then lastly, we were looking at, the domestic hot water heaters, and some building envelope improvements, tighten up the buildings, making them as efficiently as possible to save you guys energy. And then the other component was the addition of, over at the middle school, we added cooling. So right there, we have a graphic display. The dark blue areas, those are the classroom unit vents that we're finishing up by the end of next week. The light blue is where we put in all new rooftop units that added cooling into the facility. So, we're winding down right now, as I said, and we're really excited to, complete the project, this particular component of the project for the district. That's just the second floor as far as some of the other units. So with that, as I said earlier, we are providing some solutions here, mitigation strategies as far as COVID-19. We're calling it bipolar ionization. That's the technology. So with that, I'm going to switch that over to Eric Helster. And Eric is, he's in charge of the region. And with that, Eric.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Bill. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. So next slide, please. Yes, we have a program called Come Back with Confidence that we've rolled out actually globally with all of our Siemens customers. And the goal is to mitigate the COVID-19 impact and to protect the students, staff, faculty, as well as employees around the world. And part of that we've implemented is Needlepoint Bipolar Ionization, which is a fancy name for an ion generator, not to be confused with an ozone generator. It's a completely different technology. And ions are found in nature. You'll find them, in mountaintops and waterfalls. Anywhere where the beach meets the shore, you're going to have a higher concentration of ions. And those ions, when you generate them, are very effective in combating viruses, bacteria, and other DOCs. So we're all familiar with the 6-foot rule, right? Trying to stay 6 feet apart, wearing masks, trying to limit the contact with airborne viruses and bacteria, especially the COVID-19. And what this does is it allows us to make inert these viruses by using the ions. And again, attacking airborne bacteria and also viruses. Okay, next slide, please. So how does that work? Very simply put, and again, I'm not a chemist, but basically we produce ions. Those ions then rob the virus of the hydrogen atom, which they need to survive, as well as bacteria. Those ions then cling to smaller particles, which are then able to be captured in the standard filters. And so the byproduct of that process is basically water, but an inert virus. So it basically renders the virus inert when it rips it from that hydrogen atom from the virus. Next slide. So how does that work in a space, right? What we do is we attach this unit, if you can see it up in the left-hand corner, and it's a needlepoint ionization device. It gets attached to the coil at the air handler, okay? It starts to produce ions when the fan comes on. The ductwork moves the ions through the system into the ducts and then into the space, right? So now you're putting ionized air into the building and into the space, and it saturates the area. Okay. Now, what does that do? It saturates the area. So it cleans the air, but it also cleans the surfaces that the ions touch, right? So it's actually rendering inert the viruses on those surfaces. Okay. When the air is then recycled through the return ducts, it goes into the space, it is mixed with fresh air from the outside, and then the larger particles, which have been attached because of the ions, are then captured in the filter, and the process begins again. Okay? Now, one of the byproducts and effects of this is that the coils within the air handlers and the VAV boxes, those coils are kept much cleaner because bacteria and mold is not allowed to grow on there. It prevents that from happening, okay? And when you look where these units can be installed, they can be installed in multiple places, from unit ventilators to air handlers, air curtains, throughout the entire system. Okay? So that's a short summary of bipolar ionization. We're actually installing it in the convention center in Philadelphia, and to supply their entire space. And then we're currently working with 4 separate school districts throughout Pennsylvania to install it there as well. So Bill, let me turn it back over to you to talk a little bit about the high school upgrades and what we're planning to do there.
Great, thanks, Eric. Yeah, so obviously,
Sir,
we've been.
Sir, if I may, it's Bob Pollock. I apologize for stopping you. I just like to know that project you just discussed about, was that part of the original scope of your?
Yes, we put, Brian can give you the details, but we did put bipolar ionization on a number of air handlers in the original scope,
Okay.
but we did not, I don't believe we put it on every single device, right?
We put in a sample units in the elementary schools and then the unit ventilators in the middle school addition all included that.
Right. And typically we do that to reduce airflow and to save energy. But that was in the world before COVID,
Right.
where we're finding now that the more we can saturate the space with ions, the healthier the environment is.
And that was my point for thanking you so very much, because I was made aware that, you know, as things were developing, that you recognize that we could do so much better, possibly by adding more of these. And the fact that you brought that to us, we just really appreciate that. And I know our families, after hearing your, you know, your presentation, certainly feel the same way. So we thank you.
Our pleasure. Okay. So
All right,
Bill?
with that, I'll move on to, you know, where the high school. So we've been involved with the district, as I said earlier, you know, for a couple of years now. We've very familiar with the existing systems that are there, work with the administration and the staff. And, you know, as far as existing systems within the buildings, they're reaching and have surpassed their life expectancy. And, you know, with that, you know, you get more breakdowns, ongoing repairs, higher operational costs, inefficiencies within the system. And, you know, above all, you know, it has an impact on the environmental conditions, you know, for a learning environment. But one of the other things that we recognize, though, is as far as the electrical infrastructure, because we were targeting, you know, putting in cooling into the high school, and what is there within the facility right now, you know, won't support that. So, and for, you know, future expansions, you know, for the buildings themselves. So we recognize that those were issues, existing conditions. You know, what can we do to enhance that? So, you know, with that, we put together, you know, a 5-point list as far as, you know, top goals that we wanted to hit on. One of which was, you know, added in, you know, redundancy, specifically related to the boiler plant at the high school. So one of the boilers is down right now. If the other goes down, the school district is going to be in some trouble. We probably have to bring in some temporary boilers. So we wanted to, as part of this project, build in redundancy. So if one system goes down, it will be seamless as far as, you know, from an operational standpoint while that system is being repaired. But with that, with newer systems, you know, enhanced reliability, newer systems, you know, provide more efficient operation. You know, it's going to reduce any maintenance and operational costs. But, you know, bottom line is, what will that do to the classroom environment? Well, it's going to make it much more comfortable, you know, for the staff, administration, and obviously for the students. And then lastly, you know, to provide that increased capacity, if we're looking at providing cooling, you know, what we want to make sure that we build in some room that if the district wants to expand some additional usage, and we know how electrical usage is in buildings these days, that we want to make sure that there is increased capacity available. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch it over to Brian Willett. Brian, you know, is, you know, our chief energy engineer on the operational side, and, you know, has been involved with the project since day one. So, Brian.
All right, thanks, Bill. What everyone can see right now is a graphic that we put together in 2019 to display added air conditioning at the high school. And the project that we're looking at right now is very similar to this. So I use this kind of as a starting point to give everybody a debrief on what the scope includes. In the hallways, they're supplied by heating only fan coils right now. We're going to upgrade these units, the coils on these units and the controls on these units. But in the hallways, a lot of the air conditioning will be in the classrooms. Over in the library, there's existing DX, like standalone cooling units that are there today. We'll be replacing the unit vents in there and putting them on a new chill water system. The boys locker room, auxiliary locker room, they are supplied by heating only makeup air units that were replaced in the phase 1 project. They will remain heating. What you see in light blue here, these are the rooftop units that were part of the base project and remain DX. Over in the tech lab area, there are 2 existing split DX systems. We'll be removing those systems and repurposing them and installing unit vents in these areas that will include chill water for heating and cooling. In the wood shop, we're replacing the blower coil that's there today, and we're going to be including heating and cooling in this area as well. The art room, similar layout with a blower coil. It's heating only right now. We'll be adding cooling to the space. And the largest scope here with the classrooms is a unit vents. There are 46 unit vents will be going in. These will all include chill water. There'll be a larger chill water loop that'll be run throughout the entire high school section of the building, and it will be supplied by an air-cooled chiller outside of the building. In the high school gymnasium, we're replacing the existing heating-only ceiling-hung units with heating and cooling. So we'll include an energy recovery unit on the roof that will handle the outdoor air. We'll also be replacing the ductwork with duct socks, which are really like a fabric duct distribution network. This will help reduce noise in the area. Over in the cafeteria is heating only right now, and this area is being served by unit ventilators, which is not a great way to heat this space. We're recommending rooftop units that will better distribute the air throughout the cafeteria, and this will include DX cooling with energy recovery. Over at the left of the graphic here, there's a storage room that we're looking to put the chill water pumps. And this will be where all of the chill water piping will be terminated on the high school side of the building. And right outside the wall there is where the air-cooled chiller will be located. Moving the existing blower coils in the classroom right next to it, we'll be including unit vents, so we'll also have heating and cooling in that area as well. There are some areas that are storage areas and bathrooms and things like that that are out of the scope, but there's not too many of those areas. And one of the larger challenges that we had when we looked at this overall project is that the existing electric capacity, once we added the air conditioning to the middle school, the existing gear became almost fully loaded. So the only way we could add any sort of additional capacity was to add a new service. And then we would have to backfeed the existing service that's there today. So there are a lot of challenges with this and additional costs in the project as a result of this. The new service, we're looking at 480 volt with the new equipment being at 480. And then at the lower section of the building, there is some few unit vents for some classrooms and some fan coils, similar scope that we were just discussing. So that was the first part of the scope. And then the second part is the boiler replacements. So when we looked at the replacement of the existing system, there are 2 boilers that are there today. And there's really a tight constraint as far as access points to the boiler room to get equipment in and out. So we were looking at a hybrid boiler plant, which will allow us to easier get equipment into the boiler room. This is a smaller footprint equipment, but it will also drive high efficiency equipment as well for energy savings. The way we were planning on running this plant is there are 2 high efficiency boilers. We'll do a majority of the heating in the space, and then we'll have a mid efficiency boiler that will primarily be a backup. As a primary secondary pumping system, we'll be including pumps and a common combustion air duct system serving each one of the boilers. One of the key points here too is that we're planning on the replacement this fall. So there's some challenges and second shift work, but we feel confident that we'll be able to get the work done. Bipolar ionization, as you know, Eric kind of detailed out, these are just the quantity of the additional areas that we wanted to include in the project. This is another item that we'd be looking to get in the district as soon as possible, and this work would be started in the fall. So I'll transition this back over to Bill Tagging. Thank you. Bill, I believe you are on mute.
Sorry about that. Thanks, Brian. So when we initially looked at this work back in last year, over a year and a half ago, there were some significant challenges that Brian had brought about. But since that time, we've seen, some additional work that we want to add into the project, obviously, with the COVID-19 as far as the ionization, but also, the boilers, which is critical, that the entire boiler plant there. So, but right now we're drilling down on final pricing. We're comfortable with where we are as far as a not to exceed. I think there's some room there. We're working with our internal and external resources right now as far as fine tuning our design, which will allow us, hopefully we'll pass that savings on to the district. But, where we are right now, we had a 6.3 number, which is a not to exceed. And we're working with our finance team, our Siemens Financial Services, which can put together a term of 20 years, which is what we've done in similar projects throughout Pennsylvania. And the current market rate is 2.7. And Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're working with the state right now, and they're asking us to run models at 3%. So,
yeah, they're asking us to run models at 3%, and 2.7 at this point is a very aggressive rate. And remember, Siemens Financial Services is a captive bank that does projects, and they only do Siemens work, so they're able to really be competitive when it comes to providing rates and terms.
And with that, we were targeting a 12-month construction schedule, starting in October. Obviously, we can begin a lot earlier, like what Brian had mentioned, as far as the boilers and the ionization. But with that 12-month construction, we were trying to be as flexible as we could as far as payment schedule. And we're looking at, we could put together a program where we could do like semi-annual in arrears. So the first loan payment, if we're at a 12-month construction period, we wouldn't be until late spring in 2022. And then thereafter, it wouldn't be until targeted of October of 2022. And the way we would do that would be, start out very low interest only, and then slowly scale it up as the term continues. But with that, one of the things that, we've been working with our partners, and, we're ready to start with our final design pieces, upon the district's approval. And we can, prior to even financing be in place, as we're putting through the final details, upon authorization by the district, we can start on, those other big components right now, which I know are a big concern with the district, and those are the boilers and ionization piece. So with that, I'm going to open it up for any questions, and thanks again for letting us be here today.
Thank you, sir. And yes, the big piece, obviously, that bipolar ions, that's a critical piece, obviously, to us at this time. But wonderful information for the board. Any questions from the Board of Education?
If you get a new boiler in before the winter hits.
Yes.
Excellent.
And let me ask, there was one point that I believe we talked, it was mentioned that one boiler was down. I believe, and if Mr. Brummagem is on, I believe, and I know it wasn't a permanent fix, but I do believe last winter, Scott, was that boiler repaired and functional?
Yeah, Bob, as of right now, both of our boilers are functional. We replaced the burner unit and the one unit that was down. So come this winter, when it's time to fire these up, they both should be in working order.
And I have a question for Mr. Tagney. Could you email me, this is Pete, the business manager, could you email me a payment schedule of what it would look like given the not to exceed 6.35 million, and email that to me within the next week before the 20th?
Absolutely, not a problem.
Thank you.
Yep.
I just want
Hey,
to see what the payment schedule will look like since starting in April. Thank you.
Yep.
yeah, and so this is Kim, and I have to say I'm a little shocked because I had no idea that we were even exploring this as an option, because this is the first I'm hearing about it. And 6.3 million to me sounds completely outrageous, I'll be honest, for some boilers and some other additional work. And I don't even understand how we can even contemplate taking a loan out at this point at whatever interest rate, or how we would ever even pay for this. Like, this is, I can't even believe we're having this conversation, to be honest.
Thank you, Mrs. Path. I think originally this was part of the scope, and then the plans shifted to do just half the program, which was the middle school. And I think this was the second part of that project. So the review today was for the board certainly to consider, to look at, obviously ask any questions or give comments as you have, Kim. So I totally understand your concerns, and so yeah, please. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, this is Lauren McCurdy. So they mentioned this chilled water loop in the high school. What kind of cooling capacity are we talking about? What's this going to put out? How comfortable are students going to be?
Hey, Brian.
Yep. We're adding the capacity that will cool the spaces to comfort constraints throughout the building. So it'll be matching the similar what we're doing over at the middle school. We're still finalizing the exact tonnage of the final equipment, and I can get that over to the board as soon as possible.
So does that mean it's possible that to cool the space comfortably, it potentially can cost a little bit more than you mentioned?
No.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Jim Brogna. I know I would like to see.
Jim, you got muted. Mr. Brogna, you muted yourself.
I love being muted. This is just would be very interested on the financial aspect of this in light of the debt that we have when our debt rolls off, assessing the value of this and the critical importance to the district. Certainly items that relate to boilers and heating are critical, but knowing that we put some money into some of these renovations, I certainly will be interested in seeing that summary that you present to Peter Bard and our business side, so we can look at it from a financial perspective.
Thank you, Mr. Brogna. I do believe we have questions from the public regarding this. Is that correct, Mr. Blanchard?
Yes, correct. I have one question regarding this. Comes from Raymond Joseph. What is the anticipated incremental increase in utility costs on an annual basis once cooling is added in the high school?
We'll be providing that estimate as we pull all the final numbers together for final board presentation in the next couple of weeks.
That's all we have on this. Thank you.
Great. Well, we really appreciate you coming out, making the presentation. We look forward to receiving further information. And again, good just good stuff for the board to have as they try to make the best decisions moving forward. So again, I thank Marty, a longtime friend of the district and your company for all you've done. We appreciate you getting this done before the beginning of the school year. And while we will not be coming in as anticipated, we will have students in our building. So we need to have it ready to go. So we thank you for your efforts.
Oh, no worries on my end. As a taxpayer, I'm thrilled.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thanks,
you very
guys.
much.
Everybody really
Thank you.
appreciate the presentation. And we'll be in touch soon. So thank you very much to the Siemens team. Mr. Mahalik, do we have any other presentations for this evening?
We do. And I think, Mr. Bard, if you're ready with our.
Yes, we're going to do the financial planning committee agenda first.
Yep. Do financial.
Because we have Ramel from Pepsi who's going to go over and present the Pepsi contract, which is the only item that the financial planning committee will put forward. So if we could go to the financial planning committee agenda. I'm sorry, Damien, that's going to be the first agenda.
That's okay, Pete. I have it up for you.
I don't see it though. I only see the academic programs one.
Anybody else seeing it? I have it on the screen.
Yep, it's
I can't see it either.
We can proceed without having it up, can't we?
Yeah, anyways, so the first item on the agenda Mr. Brogna chairs the committee. So the first agenda on the item would be to call to order the financial planning committee. So if Mr. Brogna wants to start that, and then we'll go forward with that. And then I think it's 1, 2, and 3 is similar. And then, so Mr. Brogna, if you want to start calling the meeting to order, and then roll call, and then approve the minutes, and then go from there.
Yes, in spite of our agenda not being visual, it was certainly published on the district website, and I'll just call to order the financial planning committee, including Mr. Swank and Mr. Boone. Mr. Swank, here?
Here.
Mr. Boone?
Here.
I will be and of course I am present as the chair of the committee. I'll be seeking approval of the minutes of the financial planning committee from June 11th. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? Okay, hearing none, we will pass on the financial planning committee minutes. The first item on the agenda is a discussion and question and answer with Ramel from Pepsi. This is a presentation and a recommendation that was made that was incomplete, but it was made earlier, or I should say later in last school year, before the pandemic had hit. And so we've invited this gentleman from the Pepsi bottling group to discuss what the proposal is, and for consideration to determine whether or not we will move this forward to the board meeting for a vote next Thursday, the 20th. Ramo, are you there?
Yes, I am here. How you doing?
Welcome.
Welcome. So I'm actually going to share my screen and just go through a presentation. I'll talk about what we have to offer from a PepsiCo standpoint, and then I'll run through the financials and what the proposal is, and then we'll go from there. Does that sound okay?
Thank you. Oops.
All righty.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, can you see my screen? Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, first and foremost, thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to present on this Zoom call, on this meeting, and I thank you for the opportunity. My name is Ramel Newells. I've been with PepsiCo for 5 years, and I'll be your main point of contact as the key account manager. So as the key account manager, it's my responsibility to build a strong partnership with Crestwood High School District We would conduct, quarterly meetings to discuss the business, come up with different ways to drive revenue and ultimately create different marketing plans to cater towards the students. We'll talk about different products and new innovation just to make sure that we are always ahead of the curve. And we have a strong partnership in the Luzerne County area, the Northeastern Pennsylvania area specifically. And this is just a snapshot of a few of the partnerships that we have in the area. For our K through 12 business, we all know that the USDA has implemented some strict guidelines as far as what products we can sell in K through 12 accounts. But PepsiCo, as a company, we've been very, very forward thinking and making sure that we adapt to the different consumer trends. And we have a portfolio that meets the demand for the consumer, specifically Generation Z, which is our high schoolers. And this is our product portfolio that we have been bringing into our K through 12 schools. Kickstart has been a big product for us. A lot of the students on most of our high schools and middle schools, they love the Kickstart. We also have Tropicana, Gatorade Zero, Lipton Tea, Life Water, amongst a host of other items. But this is our product portfolio for a healthy alternative, which is what we're looking to drive, specifically because of the USDA guidelines. Kickstart in particular, this line we have launched, which is 60 calories per can. It's a 12-ounce can, which meets the guidelines. It is USDA approved, and as I stated earlier, Generation Z, this has been a big driver. Many of our high schools, this is the top product that we have there. Our Tropicana line, traditionally, as of 2 years, we now distribute Tropicana. Previously, you would have to order it separately from a Tropicana DSD or a broadliner. But now you can get it all of one truck, which makes it much easier for you as the client. When you place your order for, Pepsi products, Gatorade, Aquafina, you can also get the chill items. So on the trucks, there's a cooler, that keeps this product chilled. So when we deliver it, it'll be, nice and cool for the students to take advantage of, and the staff as well. Life Water has been huge for us, as well. This is a new product that we launched 2 years ago. It has electrolytes, pH balanced, and the students, this has been a good driver for us because they love the graphics on it. So every 3 months we come out with different graphics on the bottle and on the package, which makes it really, really cool for the students to grab, outside of it being, a great product. And bubbly. This is also something that's been huge for us over the last couple of years. It is still growing in the Northeastern Pennsylvania area. When we, go out to Boston, New York, New Jersey, this has been huge. But as it is creeping up on us in this area, this product is no sugar, no calories. As you can probably seen it on the commercials, it's doing really well. We have multiple flavors, grape, raspberry, lime, cherry, a whole entire host of items. And this is just a snapshot of our package lineup, and I'll send this out via email. I'll try to get out to you, Brad, so that you can share this. One of the biggest things that I really want to focus on, which is full service vending, and that's specifically what we'll be doing on campus. We have recently launched our Hello Goodness line. So when a lot of people, they have this negative connotation with Pepsi. They think about the high sugar products, we think about the Pepsi, the Mountain Dew and all of the, the cars. But now we have rebranded where we have Hello Goodness, which is owned by Pepsi, but you don't see the Pepsi logo on it. It's just to kind of, get away from that negative connotation and show that we do have healthy alternatives, and we can implement this on the grounds of the high school. Excuse me. This is new, so we've only been doing this for the last, I would say, 6 months. So to bring this on the school grounds would be great for us, and we've been seeing a lot of good and positive feedback in regards to this. We have other vending machines as well, not only Hello Goodness. You can get the traditional Aquafina branded, Pepsi branded. We do have timers on our machines. So, after a certain time, you won't be able to purchase, high sugar, high caffeinated items. We have that capacity to do so. This right here is our Gatorade Salon support, and I'll talk more about this when I get to the financials. there is, I believe, $4,500 that's set aside for the school to utilize. These are Gatorade Salon kits, so you get Gatorade bottles, cups, towel, and you can use this to drive the business. You may say, hey, you may do a promotion where the students will buy 2 Gatorades and you give them a free Gatorade squeeze bottle or so. Whatever it may be, it's totally, baked into the contract. You get up to $4,500 in Gatorade Salon support. PepsiCo, we've been very, very focused on sustainability as well. We can talk more about this, once we get into the, the details, but if we can go on the facility and we can host different events where we'll come on campus and we'll talk about sustainability to the students, and we'll bring recycling bins that's branded with PepsiCo as well, and we'll be able to provide all of that support. All right. Now I'm just going to share the financials. So this is just a snapshot, one page of the financials. As you can see here, it's a 10-year proposal. So there's it's 4,500 in scoreboard support funds, which you can utilize that how you like. The school can use that as funds for them. And then there's $500 in Gatorade Salon kits. I actually mistaken, when I was speaking, but there's a total of $5,000 annually in funds that you'll get directly to the school. So this is something that is not tied to any funding. It's not tied to any volume or any, amount of business that we do. This is strictly what you get. So I would say, depending on when we start the contract, within 60 days of when we sign, you'll be able to get the check, $5,000, and you get this every single year for the course of 10 years, which totals $50,000, as you can see here. Now, right at the bottom, you see the minimum annual volume threshold is 2,500 units. So this 2,500 units is tied into the contract where that is the volume threshold. So in order for you to receive the scoreboard funds and the Gatorade Salon kits, you just hit that 2,500 units and we're all good. It is prorated. So let's say you only hit 2,000 cases for the year. You won't get the entire 5,000, but it will be prorated. So maybe 4,000 that you receive. So you'll never go a year where you don't receive any of the funds. It's just prorated. We are requesting that it's 100% exclusive business with PepsiCo only. So that means that you just can't have Coca-Cola products. You can't have anything that we do not compete with. So when you think about dairy products, we don't compete with that. So anything we don't have a competitive product for, you can carry. If we do have an option for it, we look for you to purchase it from us, and it benefits you as well, because it goes towards your volume threshold. And I'll go into the next slide, which is some highlights for the contract. If you look here on the right side, you see this is our full service vending commissions. So the vending machines we service, our drivers will come out and we'll fill the machines. We'll make sure that we optimize the planograms and make sure we have the right products in there. Every 3 months, the technicians are supposed to come out and make sure that we just kind of do a deep dive on what items were selling, what wasn't selling, how many out of date products that we had in the machine, just to make sure we have the right mix. And there will be a 30% commission that you receive every quarter. So every 90 days, you'll receive a commission check based upon what revenue is generated from the full service vending machines. And this is just an example of different pricing. So 20-ounce Pepsi, $1.75. Starbucks Frappuccinos, $2.75. And you'll get 30% commission rate when it comes to full service vending. Down at the bottom, sorry, my apologies. Down at the bottom, you see the rebates. And this is another set of funds that's baked into the contract, which is separate from the annual scoreboard and the Gatorade Salon. So you also receive rebates. So for example, if you purchased 2,500 cases that year, you receive $1.50 per case back from anything that's 24 package products. And then you receive 50 cents per case back on any 12-pack cans. So that's also additional money that you will also receive. So you get the rebates. The rebates is on an annual basis. So me as your key account manager at the end of the term, I'll pull a report and we'll see, how much Pepsi, Mountain Dew, how many cases you sold, and we'll generate how many rebates you receive, and we'll cut the check. And the same thing with, 12-pack cans, Naked, Tropicana. You get rebates on all of the items that you purchase. And that's also funds that's included. So that's pretty much everything that I have. I'll open it up to any questions, any comments, concerns that you may have, and I'll address it to the best of my ability.
Thank you, sir. I just ask if any of the committee members have any questions about the proposal first.
This is Barry. Yeah. The $5,000 annually to the district from a scoreboard support fund.
Yes.
So you're donating scoreboards with advertising on, or what's the, give us a little background there, please.
Yes, great question. So we will put advertising on it. So we'll work with whoever is responsible for the marketing at the school, and we'll create you'll have your school logo and the Pepsi logo, and we'll create a mock-up draft, and we'll show you exactly what it looks like. And once we all agree, then we'll put the logo on a scoreboard. We do pay for it. Pepsi will pay for any expenses, but yes, our goal is to showcase that we are strong partners. So even outside of the scoreboard, if there's anywhere else where you want us to put some type of signage up or different graphics on a cooler or somewhere, we love to be able to take on the cost and put it up just to show the students that, we have a strong partnership.
Where did you say the scoreboard would be located, inside or outside?
That's totally up to you guys. We do it inside, outside, wherever, as long as we have the scoreboard up.
Thank you.
No problem.
Mr. Swank, any questions or feedback?
So
yeah, Mr. Brogan, no, I'm okay with it, and I don't have any questions at this time. Thank you.
I'll address a few things. If nobody has any questions, I'll just kind of bring up a few things because these were questions that were proposed, I would say a couple, almost maybe 9 months ago, because we were in conversations of getting this thing wrapped up. But, as the pandemic occurred, the ball was dropped. But one of the things I believe was brought to my attention was about the booster clubs and being able to purchase product. Yes, that's actually great. You can purchase the product through us. That we ask that you don't go to the grocery store. You purchase it, and it'll also go towards that 2,500 volume threshold. What we will create is a separate customer number. So if we'll create a separate account, it'll still be under the school district, but it'll be a separate customer number. And when you place the order, the delivery driver will bring it directly to that specific location on campus, wherever you need it to be.
Ramal, are you saying that if we have 6 booster clubs, that the percentage that you're discussing, both the delivery for the booster club and the percentage of return goes directly to that club's account? Or are you saying specific to the school district general account?
Specific to the school district.
Okay.
It kind of falls under the school district, yes.
Do we have any other? I'm sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead. Any
No,
other
sorry,
questions
this
from
is
the board?
Lauren McCurdy. Yeah, Mr. Brogna, I'm sorry. I have a question for Mr. Bard. I'm wondering where this return goes into our budget when this money comes back from Pepsi. Where does it go?
That would be up to a board discussion, and you guys could determine where it would go. It would go into the general fund primarily. There would really be no specific designation as to where it would go specific. So it would be up to the administration and the board to decide where it would go. So it could go to help general student population. It could go to help. It can go to anything specific that the board could make a determination as to where it would go. There would be no restrictions as to where it would go. So that would be up to the board to decide where it would go and how it would be used.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I have a question, actually. This is Dean.
Yes.
I'd like to know, how attainable is this 2,000 to 2,500 units? Is there any data out there for schools similarly sized to us to what they're selling in the area?
That's a really good question. Yes, I can get that over to you. It is very attainable. We wouldn't, when we put this contract together, it has to go through multiple layers. So, I present this to our finance team and it has to get approved. And then we look at the amount of students that's on campus. We also look at what, was the pass volume. Previously, we didn't have a contract, but we did sell product on campus. Now we're just making it official and kind of going bigger and better. In the conversation we do have plans to bring new equipment on campus. So we'll have different vending machines on campus on different locations and bringing in top of the line equipment, which will help drive the business. But I'll send over a few other examples for like Valley View High School. They
Yeah,
do,
yeah.
they do about maybe 4,500 cases a year. So that's double. So I definitely think that it's attainable. And we're working.
This goes into our cafeteria as well, is correct? Like the cafeteria and our food service management company, they are required as well to buy Pepsi bottling group products as well from you guys as well. So they would be getting an independent, they'd be getting a customer number as well too. So any product that they would sell would have to go, they would have to order from, they would get an independent customer number as well, and they would get it, but it still retained back to the school district as well, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I just wanted to make that clear to the public and to the board, as well as to the administrators present, that they would go into the cafeteria because you are following the safe snacks guidance, because I saw that at the beginning of your presentation, that you are following the guidelines set out by the USDA and the safe snacks guidance. So they are able, and I talked to our food service director about this as well. So he is aware of this. He was just waiting for the contract to be enacted before doing anything. So he is aware of that. This is coming. So there's no problem with that. And they've used this in the past, like you said, Rommel, that other school districts have done this. So he is prepared. They have experience with these type of contracts and using it. So there's no issues with that. Those machines, I have a question. Those machines that you have shown in your display, we'll be getting some of those machines put throughout. Are you going to put them, is that just for the middle school, high school campus, or is that going to extend to the elementary school? I mean, I don't know if the elementary kids will be able to use them. That's just going to be for the middle school, high school campuses. Is that correct?
Yeah, it'll just be middle school and high school.
Well, we do have, Rama, we do have teachers' lounges in the elementary buildings.
Yes.
So,
yes.
I'd really like to service them as well.
That was my point, Bob. Thank you. Yeah.
And also, sir, there are timers on these, the vending machines, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, so there'd be no problem servicing our teachers' rooms in the elementaries, correct?
Not a problem. We can definitely do that. And our goal is to get it anywhere there would maybe traffic where someone is going to be looking to, buy or grab a cold beverage. That's our goal.
Right.
This is Jim Brogna. Just before we offer any other questions from the board or the public, I'm asking the term exclusivity. We all realize how significant a company Pepsi is, and you went into some of the beverage lines, which we completely understand. But Pepsi's into food products, snacks, etc. Go down the list. I don't know how that. I haven't seen the contract. I would like to see that before we talk about how exclusive this is, or in terms of it's inclusive or exclusive of any products that Pepsi makes and or sells. And then the second part about it, when you talk about the annual commitment back to Crestwood guaranteeing 5,000, as it relates to advertising, is there a minimum to what you could sell in terms of a scoreboard advertising? I've been in marketing for many years, and I wonder if that's capped or if there's an opportunity for something more significant.
As of right now, that is what that amount is what has been approved through our finance department. But throughout the semester, and we're hitting different thresholds, and we can show the trend. It's always opportunity to go back in and say, hey, we need more funds. We can increase this to $750 or $1,000. There's always opportunity to do so. but we have to make a great case because I pretty much present this to our finance department, and we have to show, where we're gonna, why we're gonna increase the budget. But there's always an opportunity to have that conversation and present it. And in regards to your first question, this is a beverage contract. So, we're looking for exclusive beverages. When it comes to snacks, that's, you can purchase it from us, but you have that option to go somewhere else. That's not in the contract. It states that. So you can, get snacks from whoever you want. But when it comes to actual beverages, we are looking to have that exclusive.
Thank you. Any other questions, any public questions before we move on, Damien?
No, Mr. Brogna.
Mr. Brogna, if I just may, I'd like to say to thank you for your presentation. I had done a similar deal with a district, with you in another district, not you personally. The one thing I could attest to the Board of Education is that your service was excellent. That we ran out of supplies, or if we recognize that, hey, that's a really hot item, they would come to us 2-3 lanes of that, so we did not run out. Because while it is, a nice little chunk of money for the district, it's also for, our students after school, between activities. It's sometimes what they need to get through until they get to their next meal. I can attest to the excellent service that you provided. I will say though, sir, you had a great presentation, but we're the Comets.
Yes, I was gonna call that out. It was just brought to my attention. John did let me know. My apologies. I sincerely apologize for that.
That's all right, sir.
I won't make that mistake again.
I like the design, but that was the first thing I noticed. I'm like, oh, I smacked my head when I saw that. I was like, oh.
Yeah, no, that's all right. It's all good. Great presentation, a lot of great information for the board to consider as we move forward to our voting meeting next week.
Thanks a lot. Thank you for providing the opportunity.
Thank you, Ramo. I appreciate it. I'm sorry it's so long, but to get you here. But I'll let you know if there's any future questions, and I'll let you know, and I'll touch base with you after next Thursday evening. Okay?
Sounds like a plan. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask Mr. Bard to continue with our discussion items before we call for a committee vote, whether we move this forward to the board meeting. So, Peter, could you review items 1, 2, and 3 under discussion?
Sure. The discussion on the upcoming projects that we have going on and the future projects. The future projects, as we talked about, was the issue that we had going on with the boilers and the air conditioning that was talked about at length. A little bit with that, what was going on there. I'm trying to get my list up here. I didn't have my list up. But I want to touch on the projects that were going on with the PPE, the ordering, and the different grant things that are going on. We are working for all the different grant, we were awarded 2 different grants, one from the PCCD grant, which is a school safety grant, but this year they are allowing it to be used for the continuity of school education, which is actually used to actually be, you could use it for technology, for online learning, things that we're actually having to do. So I'm trying to conserve as much money because we got the lowest award in Luzerne County, actually the lowest award in the entire intermediate unit of Luzerne County, the Luzerne Intermediate Unit, which is a little over $530,000 between the 2 grants. So I'm trying to conserve every little bit of money we possibly can there. So what I'm using right now for all the PPE, the protective personal equipment, and any COVID-19 related supplies is I'm applying for grants through the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Mostly municipalities have used it, but it's open to school districts as well. And what it does is it applies, 75% is paid for FEMA immediately, and the other 25% is paid through the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Agency at the conclusion of the pandemic. Now, many of you will say, well, the pandemic may last for X amount of time. Well, that's right, that's fine, but If we spent $125,000, we could let that 25%, we could afford that 25% in our budget and wait for us to get reimbursed. It's the 75% that we're recouping. For example, we've already got reimbursed for the ServPro cleanup that when we had to clean up the ServPro issue in for the cleanup we had in early February from the potential COVID exposure that we did for the couple of classrooms, the couple of rooms that we had cleaned up. That was $10,000. We already got reimbursed $7,500. We are awaiting the $2,500. And there are several other things that we have already ordered. We have ordered several thousands masks, face masks. We've ordered chemicals. We've ordered hazmat suits. We've ordered hydrostatic sprayers that we've already had to use, including the hazmat suits to clean the building from the possible COVID-19 exposure that happened earlier this week. So some of this stuff is already paying dividends for us because we've saved a lot of money than calling in a third-party company when our own guys have been trained and been able to do that. So we've been able to, we're going to use that FEMA and PEMA, which is going to be 100% fully reimbursable money over the course and scope of that. And I don't know if any other school districts are doing it, but they should be. And if they're not, it's their particular fault. But we're going to do that so we can preserve all that money because the one PCCD grant was built for this PPE stuff. But I decided that it's probably better to be using it for our online learning, our distance learning, so that we can maximize as much money as we possibly can, so we could save our general fund as much as we possibly can moving forward, so that we have as much money saved as possible moving forward to next school year. To go forward with that, we had, to give you an update on the conversion of the admin suite to classrooms that was approved in June. Jack Dean is working on applying for the status change of the house, the zoning change, and I've spoke with Larry Lovato at our feasibility study to work on a quote for the board as to prepare specs for that, because after speaking with Jack, it probably was not a good idea to advertise for bids without some specs to go along with that. So he's going to work up a quick spec sheet for the conversion of that class to convert that space in the classrooms and to convert the house as cheaply as possible into an admin suite. We've had some discussions about what would be needed in the admin suite, the public access and the like, so that it is public accessible. So once he has that quote, I will share it with the board. I don't think it will be anything more than $30,000 at the most for the engineering, so he can engineer it out for us and prepare the specs for us. I just want to make sure that is prepared, so the specs are ready. So when we do put it out for contractors to bid on it, that we have some specs for it. We do have $150,000 that Bob and Beth Ann were able to secure through contingency funds. That is a very significant sum of money that we received in late May 2019. Contingency funds are very, very difficult to receive through special education. And Bob and Beth Ann were able to get it for one of the first times, I think, in the school districts. I look back for the last 8 or 9 years and I didn't see Crestwood getting any of that money. So Bob and Beth Ann deserve a lot of credit for getting those fundings. So some of that money could be used to cover some of these initial costs of getting this done.
Pete, let me just interject there for a second for
Yes.
community members that might be present and didn't hear in June the concept, and maybe Mr. Mahal could just share very briefly what the concept is, why we would move administration out of the facility that they're in, and what that space could be better used for, why we voted on this.
Yes, Mr. Brogna, thank you. We currently have several kids that are educated outside the district, and they're educated outside the district because we do not have the services that they require to have an appropriate education. When I look at our students and I look at what those services are, I've realized it's really facilities that we're lacking, because I know we have staff, and while we would need some additional staff, I know that we could hire additional staff to complement the staff we already have to give these students everything they need. And for me, sir, it's personal. I want every student to be in their home district. It says a lot to a child. It says a lot to a family when we send them out. And if you've ever had a family member or a child that a district couldn't educate because they didn't have facilities or the staffing to meet their specific disability, man, you just took so much away from all of them. You know, I sometimes maybe people think I'm a little bit too much over the top with, you know, the Comet and the school spirit and the Comet strong, but that's in my heart, because, you know, this is what sets you apart from all the other institutes. Yeah, we're amazing in our academics. We have great teachers. But what really sets us apart is our students and the friendships that they make and the relationships that will take them way beyond their high school years. And if you do not even give a student that opportunity, that's just tough for an administrator to accept. So the concept would be designing our current administrative suite into space that would appropriately meet the needs of our students and get them back on the Crestwood campus, get them back into the Crestwood family, and get them back into being taught by Crestwood staff and related service members. So it really is my philosophy and the goal that I've had from the very first days that I was a special education teacher. We can do it as well as anyone. And if we can't, we won't. But I know we can and we will. And it's the very best for our kids. So that really is the quick summary to my.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And Jim,
Thank you,
and Mr. Brogan, there would be cost offsets with that as well.
Yeah.
So there would be some cost offsets and there would be a return on investment type of summary before the board would award any contracts to do the actual work, so
Absolutely.
that there wouldn't be any, before the board awarded any contracts, there would be some understanding as to what was going on with that.
Yeah, you summarized the COVID grants, and we're grateful. I don't think people take for granted the fact that even though we paid for something like cleaning and the supplies, that you sought out competitive grants for us to get awarded, and I know we're grateful for that as well. Could you just give us the status of the feasibility study?
Yes.
And I know you
yeah.
said about a possible presentation to the public.
Right. The feasibility study, Larry Lovato expects that there could be a feasibility study finding presentation to the public in mid-fall, in November. That is based on like the pandemic and how that goes, because there is some information that he has to gather yet from us. And the difficulty with us is that we've been so laser focused on getting the continuity of education plan, making sure that we're ready for the start of school and getting ready for everything else, that it's been very difficult to get the information together. So the feasibility study is on target, though, to be completed in February or November. So I'll make sure that I keep the board on loop with that every month, giving you guys a status update on that. And the one final piece is the track. There is some repair and reconditioning that may need to be done. That might be able to be rolled into some other projects and whatever. We'll have to talk about that when it comes to the conversion of the admin suite, if we have to take with the cost of that. But that might be talked about better in facilities than financing. But that is a need as well. But other than that, I think that's all I have.
Thank you.
With regard to projects and discussion items.
I see Stacy, Mrs. Haddix has a question. Stacy, could you?
Hi, Jim. Thank you. Yeah, I do have a few questions on the Siemens presentation. Forgive me if I stumble through some of these questions that I have. I wasn't privy to the full scope of the proposal earlier than this. The first question I have is, why not, or will we competitively bid this work out?
Well, to my knowledge, Mrs. Haddix, the Siemens project was already bidded out back when they did the ESCO project before Mr. Mahalik and myself arrived. This was back last summer. And this was bidded out, and Siemens was awarded the project. And this was like the second phase. This was like part of the phasing of the project. And did the board, a board elected at that time just to do the first phase of it and then revisit the second phase of it after the first phase of it, depending on the financial status and where things were and how things were developed. So I think this project was already bidded out, so I don't believe it needs to be competitively bidded again. That is just my understanding of where it was. But like I said, this was before Mr. Mohawk and my time there.
Okay, and I do not believe the boiler work was part of that original scope.
Yeah, I don't think the boiler work was something they discovered when they were, the boiler, you're correct about the boiler work. It was the air conditioning that I know was part of it. The boiler work was something new that they discovered during the course of the work they were doing. So I'm not sure how much the individual boiler work is, but we could ask Jack Dean about it and see what his legal opinion is on that, if we have to bid that part out of it.
Well, yeah, and I would think that Siemens should be able to split that out for us. You know, as much as I would love to see air conditioning in the high school, it is certainly more of a want than a need, where the boiler plant is more of a need than a want. So I think those two things should be split out so we can have a better understanding of what the associated costs are. And I didn't, unfortunately, my audio broke up when Siemens was answering Dr. Joseph's question about utility costs. So I didn't know if somebody could recap if there has been any evaluation on what the air conditioning impact would be to our utility costs.
Their answer, Mrs. Haddix, was that they would get that information to us. That they didn't have that readily available, but they can certainly, get that to us rather quick.
Okay. The other thing that I was hoping that they could provide is with the boiler plant, they're installing much more efficient boilers. I would think that there should be an ROI that they could provide us. And that should certainly help us determine if, if we have the two projects split separately, how funding should be determined.
Very, very good point. Very good point as well. And I think, Peter, you need to make note of that.
I will. I'll reach out to Marty and the team and let them know what the concerns are and if they could split out the costs and for the boiler and the air conditioning and get a return on investment type of thing. But I'm sure, I believe he said that he was going to do they were going to do a final presentation in a couple of weeks, I believe they said.
Okay.
So I believe there's going to be one more presentation, but I'll reach out to them and make sure that there were questions afterwards.
Okay. And my last question, Pete, is more for you, is with this $6 million proposed loan financing, have you looked at what that impact would be to our future budget?
No, and that's why I asked him if you heard the question I asked for the payment schedule that would be anticipated. If the first payment is not due until 2022, there would be our balloon debt payment of 2.4 million is due in 21-22, and that is due usually one in September and one in March. That's the two debt service payments that combine to equal the 2.4 million. So if it's due later in 2022, that would be in the fiscal year the debt service payment would fall to 1.8 million. So you would have $600,000 to $700,000 down. The debt service would decline by that much money. So there may be some flexibility in debt service structure there. But so if the board decided that they wanted to move forward with the project, there would be flexibility there in debt service payment if the payment was not due until September 2022, which would have been the 2022-2023 fiscal year. There would be some flexibility. That's why I wanted to see the schedule before I give you guys the opinion that it's okay that you have flexibility in there. I would imagine the debt service payment for a $6 million project, the first, you would be able to afford it if the debt service, you know, based on the fact that you had to raise the funds to pay the 2.4 million, you know what I mean? So that would be up to the board if they decided they wanted to go in that direction, but that's completely up in that direction. You know, so I wasn't anticipating, you know, that type of, you know, I wasn't anticipating being ready to ask that, you know, answer that, but you know, when you're, I have the debt service kind of figured out, so it's off the top of my head that I could think of it in that direction. So, you know, in that perspective, I kind of know that you have that kind of flexibility in 22, 23.
Thank you, Pete. That's really all the questions that I had.
Okay.
Stacy, if I could real quick, this is Scott Brummingen with Building and Grounds. I agree 100% with you as far as breaking out the boiler project from the air conditioning project. That is need base, and the air conditioning is more of a want base. I think we need to put one in front of the other. Even though this winter, I'm confident that our boilers are going to work. We don't know that for sure. But we can ride them out until we have to. And I know Siemens has the capability, and it's in their scope that they will provide us an ROI on the cost savings that we will gain by putting in the new boilers. They did that with their initial ESCO project. They spanned it out over the 20-year time and how much we were making back each year over what it cost us. So I think that is the way to go. I agree.
Thank you, Scott. Stacy, thank you for those questions. This obviously wasn't, that presentation wasn't part of the financial planning committee, but I respect your questions because they relate probably as much to facilities and grounds as it does to the long-term finance. But I'm going to ask our committee to consider.
Mr. Brown, I'm sorry, sir.
Oh,
there's one question from the audience, if I may ask. Read it to you. Sharon Kopatic asks, why is CSD creating an admin suite off campus? The enrollment is down due to the push for cyber. Plus, there is not a significant cost savings associated with bringing back special education program. It doesn't make fiscal or leadership sense to move central office to a new location. So we are in the, I want to answer this. We are obviously in the exploring stages of moving the administrative office off campus, which actually isn't even off campus, it's on campus, right at the end of our campus. The push for cyber, we know this is at the most a one-year push. I would expect all 650 students to date that are enrolled in our Crestwood Cyber Academy will come back the moment things, our families feel that more confident in the science and the medical data that is being presented to them. So we are certainly not expecting this cyber push to be something that lasts much more than this year. You know, as it relates to, there's not a significant cost savings associated with bringing back special education programming. I'm going to say, and I've been in special education for 25 years. I've been a director of special education for better part of 13 years. It is never for me about savings or money. When you tie that to a kid, you're going down a slippery slope that I will never, ever allow this district to go. It's about FAPE. It's about least restrictive. It's about the chance to be in your own school, and potentially making friends that you'll never, ever be able to be made when you're traveling 20, 30 miles away from here. So, you know, that's for the business team and that's for the financial people. Certainly I wouldn't put us in greater debt, but it's never about money when it comes to special education programming. It can't be. It's got to be about the spirit of the law. And I'm going to follow that to the last moment that I'm in public education. But thank you for that comment. And one last question. Does it make fiscal sense? Again, for us, it's not about fiscal. It's about the law and the spirit of the law, and our desire to have every single Crestwood Comet on this campus. And we know for some that's not possible. We know that, but we're not going to give up trying to get every one of them back. So thank you to Mrs. Baddick for that question. Damien, any other questions before we let Mr. Brona wrap up?
No, Mr. Mahalik.
Thank you. Mr. Brona, please, it's yours.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I certainly appreciate the question from Dr. Baddick. She knows education, and we're always enthusiastic to have our community engaged. I can't think of a better use of that house that was purchased prior to my joining the board than moving administration there and creating more productive education space because we're space starved everywhere. But I will offer and request and recommend, I should say, consideration of the following item. It's item 5.1 to move forward to the board meeting next Thursday, August 20th for a full board vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Our meeting is, I should say, our finance committee meeting is officially adjourned.
Thank you, sir. I believe, Mr. Blanchard, and if we don't have these in the same order, then I'll just go with what you have, but I believe it's transportation. Oh, no, go ahead. Let's just go in your order, bud. That way you don't have to scroll. Whatever you had next is good, Dame.
Okay, I mean, I could just start back. I could jump with you. That's fine. I have the list of what you want, so I'll just move. I'll move with you.
Well, let's go to transportation then.
Okay.
Transportation, we will open this agenda this August 13th, 2020. Our chairwoman, Mrs. Spath, and Mr. Brogna and Mrs. Bibba are all here, so I will give it to Mrs. Spath.
Sorry, do I have to do a roll call, Bob?
You know what, just for the record, please, and thank you, Kim.
Okay. So I'll start with myself. Kim Spath here. Anna Bibla. Are you on mute?
Muted.
Here. Yep, gotcha. All right, Jim Brogna.
Here.
All right, all present. So for Transportation Committee, the first thing that I'll do is recommend and approve the minutes for June 10th of 2020. Can I have all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And so there's not really a whole lot on the agenda for this month. However, I'm sure there's a lot of questions surrounding transportation. So I wanted to give everyone, both on the committee and board, an opportunity to ask questions and also with the community. So Damien, I'll just open it up. I think I already saw one question for transportation, and I know there's probably others.
Yes, let me scroll back and look. I apologize. I'm answering someone.
Mrs. Spath, respectfully, while he's looking, I will let you know that we are communicating daily with our transportation vendors. We remain, obviously, with the change of plan, we remain still ready to go for the first day. And there's lots of discussions because I will tell you that we will be looking at taking our students to the CTC. We met with the CTC today, and we'll have a lot more information about that, Mrs. Spath, but you know, we will need transportation to go there. Special education, we're going to require those transportations, and as we get ready to roll out our new plan, these things will include transportation. So we are working daily with that, Mrs. Spath, and we will update you as further developments come in.
Thanks, Bob. And can you talk a little bit about the transportation for other schools that we provide transportation for, like St. Jude's or MMI, if they were to still go back to school in person?
So, and as of now, and I have not returned Sister Ellen, my dear friend, she's waiting for my phone call. Sister Ellen, I am going to call you. We are working on that now. Again, things have obviously changed, but we are, prepared to offer that transportation to St. Jude's. It's very important. And they're, as of, as the last I had heard, they are still going back. MMI, I believe, is still going back. I have not heard from some of the other districts or programs, I should say. However, we will certainly communicate with them. Right now, my focal point, obviously is St. Jude's, and wanting to make sure that, they have their transportation in place as this is quickly coming up with us. For special ed transportation, that will continue. We do have kids going to different programs, and we are prepared to provide that. And there will be also some special education, coming onto our campuses as well.
Okay, any other questions from the committee?
Damien, any from the public?
You just answered it, Mr. Mahalik. Thank you.
Bob, this is Anna. Real quick, what about, so when we didn't have school, so when Crestwood didn't have school, some of the other schools came to the campus, secondary campus, and then the buses went out from there. Is that something we're looking at?
That's exactly what we're doing,
Okay.
Mrs. Bibla. So that's the logistics now. And that's, yes, exactly what we're doing for many reasons. But again, that the social distancing piece, is going to be important, especially with the new strong recommendations that were provided to us. So we will, that's exactly what we're looking at, those logistics.
Okay.
I do have another question that just came in from the public. Eileen Williams asks, can you social distance on the buses 6 feet?
We're gonna look at that. In the past, when they talked about social distancing on buses, it was where feasible, when feasible, if feasible. That's sort of no longer the wording. So that's what we're looking at, Mr. Blanchard and Mrs. Williams, trying to see how do we do that. I mean, again, that puts a whole different spin on public school transportation, because 6 feet on a bus is probably every third seat. And so you could see even your largest bus, an 81 passenger, is cut by, well more than 65%. So, that's what we're trying to configure now.
This is Lauren McCurdy. I do have a quick question, Mr. Mahalik, maybe you can answer. I know that we provided a survey to everyone within the Crestwood School District. I'm wondering, do we provide a survey to everyone who goes to CTC, special ed, and other private schools in the area?
Yeah, well, not the private schools, because they would not have access, or we would not have access to them. But we did to everyone that was a member of our school community. So that includes the CTC, that includes students with special needs. And when it comes to students with special needs, that is written in their IEP. So it's something that we're mandated to provide. Obviously, the parents do not need to take our transportation. But again, some of these kids are traveling 30 miles, from here. So that's a pretty significant burden on anyone to travel take their child that far. So the survey did include anyone and everyone in the Crestwood school community. And we did share the results of that. I shared it with the Board of Education as well as with the public. Mr. Blanchard?
That's all the questions, Mr. Mahalik.
Excellent.
Okay, if there's nothing else, then the Transportation Committee meeting is adjourned.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Spath. We will move to Policy Committee. And again, we open our Policy Committee with our chairwoman, Mrs. McCurdy, Mrs. Spath, and Mr. Brogna. Mrs. McCurdy.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to recommend and approve the minutes of the Policy Committee for June 10th, 2020. All in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? Seeing none, move on to number 4. I'd like to recommend consideration and approve for the following. I'd like to do a first reading on Policy 332. We'd like to do a first reading and adopt on Policy 111, lesson plans, 432 working periods, 532 working periods, 803 school calendar, and 907 school visitors. We did have the pleasure of Mrs. Peg Foster on the call when we were reviewing all these policies, and she did look over everything and helped us get the right wording and the right changes for all of these agenda items. Are there any questions from anyone on the committee about these items? Seeing none, do we have any questions from the board on these items? Okay, are there any questions from the public, Mr. Blanchard?
No, Mrs. McCurdy.
Great. Okay, I'd like to recommend to our committee that we vote to move these items to the agenda next week. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, section 5 on here, I know there's not a whole lot of detail. And for those who aren't aware of the large volume of new policy that was released from PSBA earlier this week, there are several items that we chose not to put on the agenda right away because they all need to be reviewed by Mr. Dean. I believe Stephanie will get the bulk of those on the website by the end of this week, so anyone from the board can review those items. And if any of those, if Mr. Dean feels that any of those need to be moved onto the agenda for next week, hopefully we can do that without too much trouble. Are there any questions on that item 5?
Okay. Just to make the administration and board aware, a lot of those items not on the agenda deal with Title IX. We need a Title IX director to be appointed, and a lot of those other policies are related to that. But we've got to get that position into one of those policies before we can move on any of the others. So I think at our executive session next week that could be discussed.
Yeah, and Mr. Boone, if I may, and it was late today when I sent to Mrs. McCurdy the recommended resolution from PSBA regarding Title IX. I will tell you tomorrow, myself and Mr. Ambosi will be part of the training. That training is needed to be done by the 14th of August. So we are going to do that tomorrow. And then at a later date, I will roll that out to the rest of the members of the Title IX committee, because as you know, you need several members to make up if there should be a complaint. You need a complaint officer, an investigator, someone that makes the decisions. You require a substitute. So there's a lot of different positions to it. And to Mrs. McCurdy's point, let's not rush that. This came out very, very sudden, especially with everything that's going on. So most districts are, I don't want to use the word scrambling. I think most are doing the training, having the training done by the 14th, which we will be doing it on the 14th. And then we will turn around and when the board is ready to adopt the revisions, we'll have that ready to go. And those revisions have been vetted by PSBA. And again, they're recommending, the wording exactly as they've sent it to the 500 districts.
Okay, thank you for that information, Mr. Boone and Mr. Mahalik. If there are no further questions, I move to adjourn the policy meeting.
All right, wonderful. Thank you, Mrs. McCurdy. We will now head to Human Resources. And we have Mrs. McGovern, Mr. Brogna, and Mr. Swain. Mrs. McGovern, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mahalik. First, I am seeking approval of the committee minutes from June 10th. Are the committee members in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Swank?
He may be muted. Mr. Swain?
He's not muted.
Well, are there any opposed? Should I wait or go on?
I think we're good.
Sorry, aye.
Okay. Can everybody see items 1 through 5, or should I read them?
Nope, we can see them. We can see them.
Okay.
Mrs. McGovern.
Then I would like to make a recommendation that they would be moved to the agenda if there are no comments. Are there any comments or questions from the committee members or administration? Are there any questions from the public?
No, Mrs. McGovern.
Okay, then I would like to move them forward to the agenda for next week. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Then I adjourn this meeting.
Thank you so much, Mrs. McGovern. This time we will open up our academic committee. Okay, our academic committee is chaired by Mr. Boone. We have Mrs. Bibla and Mrs. McCurdy. Mr. Boone.
Calling for approval of the minutes of the June 10th meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We have no new agenda items, and even under open discussions, the only thing I have to report is that we do have members of our faculty working on an advanced phys ed course for the 21-22 school year. We couldn't quite fit that in this year. That's something that will be coming down the pipe at a later date. So any questions from the committee? Other board members or administration? Or the public?
No, Mr. Moon.
Okay, if not, we adjourn this portion of the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Boone. At this time, we will go to our co-curricular. Okay, co-curricular for August 13, 2020. Our chairman is Mr. Swank. We have Mrs. McGovern and Mrs. McCurdy. Mr. Swank.
Thank you, Mr. Mahalik. We will be seeking a motion to approve the minutes of the co-curricular committee meeting of June 10th, 2020.
So
you there now? Okay, here I am. Sorry. I'm looking to approve the minutes of the co-curricular committee meeting of June 10th, 2020. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 4. Recommend consideration and approve the following. Number 1, girls soccer is an amendment to our previous voting session where we had approved Jamie Antosh as assistant varsity head junior high coach for volleyball. So that was incorrect. She is head junior high for girls soccer. Also, cross country is listed, as well as the 2 new football assistants. And there's also a change to salaries for football coaches due to the resignation of Coach Mike McCree, who recently took the athletic director, was hired as an athletic director at Hanover area. So he was unable to continue his coaching duties here at Crestwood. So we'll be updating those salaries to what is listed there under number 3, A through G, after A and B for Cavakinis and Popson. So any questions from the committee or the board? Okay, seeing none. Bob or Damien, any questions from the public on any of these items?
No, Mr. Swank.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, I'd like to, Bob, should we move these forward and then do the discussion items? Or?
Yeah, I think that would be great.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm seeking a motion to move these items forward to the agenda for next week's voting session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye. Okay, thank you. Any opposed? Okay, seeing none, we'll get those items on the agenda for next week. And now to our discussion items. Item number 5, discussion items. Number 1 is a swim team co-op. And Mr. Mahalik, I spoke to our athletic director, Mr. Ambosi, and we were looking at the possibility, at least investigating the possibility of a co-op with Hazleton area for swim team for our student athletes. And he informed me that you may have some information. You could speak to that a little bit.
Yes, I did. I spoke with their athletic director, Fred Barletta, and he said, that certainly they would be open to further discussions, having a co-op. And there's two different ways we could have members of our district compete individually, or we can do the co-op, which is them, adopting, so to speak, the Crestwood individuals to be on their team. So he was going to look at, and I've not spoke to him since our conversation last week, what his swim team thought might be the best move on their part. And there are, definitely, logistics when a team does that. And, it's, I've seen many swim meets that they're really, they're fun. They're neat. They're tremendous athletes. I just don't know a whole lot to know those logistics, but there's lanes, obviously, and with additional members, that takes on a new perspective for the teams. There's official charges. So he was going to look into this and share it with us. I told him, we would be tremendously appreciative because we believe we might have some members of our district that would love to compete and probably would be a tremendous asset to their team if it was through a co-op or, individually, still to give our students the opportunity. Obviously, schools that built regulations pools when the school was being built, have an advantage. The idea for any district to look at building on a swimming pool that meets the regulations for a PIAA, it's almost not even an imaginable thought for schools. It really isn't. So our best way to approach this is seeing if we can tag on with another district, and that is what we're doing, Mr. Swain.
Okay, very good, Mr. Mahalik. Thank you for that input and your time researching that topic. So item number 2 under discussion items is our varsity baseball field over at the American Legion Mountain Post 781. And just as a little background, especially for our newer board members, the way the current setup runs with the American Legion field is we had a 5-year contract, and that contract is now expired. I guess it was July 1st. And the contract entailed we would make a payment to the Legion of $5,000 annually, and they would, that would help to provide for care of the fields and supplies and things like that. And so our varsity baseball team plays their plays and practices, games and practices are at the American Legion. So since our contract is now up, we've inquired with multiple individuals that are involved with the field at the Legion. And I haven't heard any information or anything back from them. We were concerned whether or not they wanted to renew the contract at all, change the number of years, and discuss terms as far as the finances are concerned. And so this is going back about 6 to 8 weeks. I have not heard anything. I spoke to our solicitor, Jack Dean. He's a little concerned that if we were to lose access to that field, how we would continue if we would have had to bring our varsity baseball team back to campus. The field would need significant upgrades, the field here at Crestwood. So I just wanted to bring that up, make everyone aware of it. I don't want to have an issue where we don't have anywhere to play come the spring. So anyone have any comments, questions, or concerns on that? I think it's something we need to really dig into right away. And
Randy, this is Jim. I would just ask, if possible, can we get Scott and Dean touch base on this with Randy and see if we don't get that approval, we would obviously have to fix or update the baseball field, and really should do some groundwork into the softball field. I know we had volunteers do a great job on the dugouts, but the fields themselves, can we get some, if the two of those administrators and Randy, if you three can get together and see what would have to be done the only way to get it playable for the spring would have to be getting it done sometime in the fall, I would, assume.
Correct.
The weather is. So if we can get on that quickly, at least get some ideas and get an idea of maybe, September, October might be a time where we could fix those if we don't have a baseball field anymore.
Yeah.
Have some of that information.
Yeah, I would like to also get input from the baseball coach and the athletic director, because my understanding is we have a junior high team, we have a JV team, we have a baseball team, we have one field. I don't know how we're going to be able to have kids practice if we've got home games, or even get 3 practices in and we don't have lights on that field. So
that's a
I
great
would like to get
question.
some input from them as to our needs.
I posed that to Mr. Ambosi as well. It'll really be a struggle. There's no question. I think that's a tough place to be. But I don't know, maybe you do, of another baseball field we were trying to brainstorm in the area that we'd be able to use for not only games, but practices. That's the issue. It's all about the practices because they're every single day. We can always ask a Kings or a Wilkes for a rental of a field if necessary, but the practices really throws that whole thing into a mix. So we got a lot of work to do in a very short time.
Yeah, I had a question, Barry, for you. You've been around the district for a long time as a teacher, now a board member. What have we done in the past with the baseball teams before we went to the Legion? How did we handle
that? When I first got here, we didn't have that many levels.
Right.
When I first started teaching here 40 years ago, we did not have a junior high team. And I think the JV team at the time was very, very spotty as to the number of games they played, the number of participants we had in the program. And as with all sports over the years, the number of participants has grown. And I don't think we've kept enough facilities to keep up with the number of kids we have out for the sports.
Hey, guys, I think we can alleviate the JV problem by playing them on Saturdays. You could do double headers on Saturdays. I believe the 7th and 8th grade programs already play Saturdays. The JV wouldn't be an issue because they practice varsity anyway.
Right.
But yeah, you still have a junior high team. We got to fit somewhere for practices. So yeah, it's something to think about.
Hey, Dean, Dean, it's Randy. Do you have freshman and middle school in baseball?
We do.
Okay.
Wow.
3 teams plus a JV team.
Well, your JV is part of your varsity.
Dean, I
Yeah.
also have a question. With varsity baseball, we do have to have a fence up, don't we?
Yes, we need a fence.
And how will that affect the softball field?
I think we could probably fit it in. Your dimensions is what you'd have to look at. If your softball went around, if your softball also had a fence and you did about a 200 fence on the softball, you'd probably be able to make, we've been putting up temp fences at 200, and I believe we had one at 3 1/4 last year, and that worked.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments or questions for co-curricular? All right, seeing none, we will adjourn the co-curricular committee meeting and move on, Mr. Mahalik.
Thank you, sir. We will now go to physical plant. I know we have Mrs. Stacy, the chairwoman, and we have, as soon as we pull it up, Mr. Boone and Mrs. McGovern. Mrs. Haddix.
Thank you, Bob. I will ask for approval of the June 10th, 2020 Physical Plant Committee minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, I'll move on to item 4, recommend consideration of the following plant issues. I think we've gotten more information from the financial meeting regarding the rezoning of the house, land development, and the administrative suite, but I'll ask Bob and Scott if they have anything additional that they would like to add.
Yeah, I'm sorry. This is Scott. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Mr. Mahalik and Mr. Bard, they did cover this a lot earlier, so at least everybody knows what we're talking about. Our solicitor, Mr. Dean's, looking into getting this rezoned so we can move forward. The Wright Township uses a company, Barry Isaac and Associates, and I've been in contact with them. And as you can expect, it's going to be a lot of red tape. What we have to do is fill out an application for a zoning permit, which they tell me as soon as we turn it in, it will be declined. Then that will allow us to put in for an exception. The exception to that it's an R1 housing is what the property is zoned for. So I said, can't we just skip that? And we know it's going to be declined. And I guess the red tape says, no, you have to submit the application first. Now, the application just isn't putting our name and address on it and setting in there. There's a lot of information that needs to be collected. They want plot plans and surveys and where sewer drains are and the dimensions of the property. It's a lot of information to gather to give them this to decline us. So we are starting that process. The representative at Barry Islet's very helpful. I'm in contact with him on the phone. I'm going to try to speed up this process to see if he needs all this information, if he's just going to decline part 1. But once we get this sent in, it'll be within, the next week or 2. We'll see where that leads us. And once we hear from Mr. Dean as far as what we need to do next. But we can't go and get any pricing or any bid projects until we learn that Wright Township's going to allow us to put our offices down there.
Scott, I don't know, maybe something as we go through this process, if we change from residential to the school use, I'm not sure. I think there's a well. I don't think they're on city water. I'm not sure about that, but I'm almost positive that building is a septic system not hooked into the Mountaintop Sewer Authority. I don't know if those are going to become issues or not, and if they are, there's going to be more cost involved. So that's something to make you aware of.
Absolutely, that's part of the questions on there, talking about septic versus public sewer. So that information we do need to collect. So thanks for the heads up. That will be part of it. And you're right, it will, looking at costs, it will play a part.
Bob, did you have anything that you would like to add?
Nope, I think everything's been covered up to this point. Mrs. Haddock.
Okay. The next two items under number 4, I think we have spoken about, and I think we are awaiting another presentation. So I don't think there's anything more to say on the 2 Siemens items there, boiler plant and high school air conditioning, unless anyone has any comments. Bob, Scott?
No, ma'am, thank you.
Okay, so then I will ask for any questions from the committee or board members. Hearing none, is there any comments or questions from the public?
No, there isn't.
Thanks, Damien. And then it does not seem that at this moment we have anything from those items to add to next week's agenda. So then I'll just ask if Scott can give us a quick update on the field house, or Bob, either of you.
I can answer most of it. This is diving into the next field of red tape. We moved from the zoning commission back to the planning commission. The planning commission of Wright Township, they use the services of Borton Lawson engineering firm to come out and inspect everything on our property that was originally planned and got approved. So when Quad 3, the engineers for the district, originally presented this to get approval, after all is said and done, they have to come back and make sure we did everything we were supposed to do. They came up with quite a long list of items that needed answered from Quad 3 and some of the contractors. They held a special meeting just this Tuesday night for this very purpose, to get this approved. A representative from Quad 3 answered a lot of the questions that were proposed. At the end of the hour-and-a-half meeting, they came up with a short list that Quad 3 has to have into the hands of the Planning Commission by their monthly meeting, which is next Tuesday. First of all, the commissioners of Wright Township are very pro Crestwood. They want to make this happen. They understand the need for it. They understand the importance of it. If it was up to them, they certainly would not hold this up. It's not held up on their end. They just have to do what's required by law for them to approve it. They just need certain things in their hand. Quad 3 is assuring us that they'll have everything they need by Tuesday. And it seems like they will approve us unless something weird happens and they find some measurements they don't like. But hopefully Quad 3 will come through and hand in everything they need. We'll get the approval for occupancy permit, and we just have to go back to the inspector, show them that Wright Township approved it, and we'll get our permit, and then we can open up and start making plans on how to use the facility.
Thank you, Scott. I'm sure, as you had mentioned, Sam from Quad 3 believes that he will have everything to the township in time. Did you, or Bob, did you give Quad 3 a deadline of, possibly this Friday, to give us a little bit of a buffer, just in case the township might want more info? Or is it just going to be submitted directly to the township and we're going to have our fingers crossed?
Stacy, I don't know, Bob can answer in a minute. I don't know if we gave them a deadline. The township supervisors kind of put that in their lap and said, you guys have this deadline.
Yes.
The earlier the better. The president of the commission said if they got it 1 minute before their meeting, he's confident they'll be able to approve this. But like you said, if there is something weird that comes up, sooner is better. And the representative from Quad 3 was hoping they would have everything done by tomorrow that they needed, and at the latest Monday. So they'll have it a whole, like all day Monday and all day Tuesday in their hands to let us know if something else. But they don't foresee any other items needed. If just something comes back that doesn't shake out is the only place a problem would come up.
Thank you, Scott, very much. And the next item is we are continuing to update our spreadsheet for capital planning. And then the earlier Siemens presentation, I think, gave a good summary on the current work of phase 1 that is going on, and a nice explanation of the ion generators that were installed in the air handlers. Is there any other questions or comments?
I'm sorry, Stacy. This is Lauren. I did have a quick question about the boiler, and I'm not sure who can answer this. But does anyone have an idea when that was when that was repaired? Did they give us any kind of lifespan for that at all?
No, there is no warranty. This boiler is so very old, and it was. I mean, I'm sure Scott can elaborate, but this was strictly to get the boiler up and running. This is a very old boiler. It can fail. There's other components on the boiler that could fail. So it really, both boilers are at a critical point to be replaced.
Exactly, Stacy. There's 2 parts to it, Lauren. There's a big, huge boiler that is very old. It might be original. And then there's a second part to it, which is the actual burner, which fires into the boiler to heat up the water. The burner is what failed on us the last time, and the contractor came in and rebuilt that for us. If that were to fail, they would come back in and fix that. That's new. And there probably is a warranty on that actual burner. Now the boilers, on the other hand, is a total separate component. Like Stacy said, if you look inside there, they don't look really good. They're rusted out. They show their lifespan. I believe they're way past their estimated lifespan. So even though we have a new burner on the one end, the whole other end can fail. Luckily, we have 2 burner systems and boiler systems. So if one does go out, we can run off the one. We did it last winter. We ran off one, and it was enough to heat the whole school. But then we're down to 1, and again, no redundancy. If that goes out, it means we have no heat. We have to shut the school. So I hope that answers what you're looking for.
And Scott, on that burner, it took United quite a bit of time to source that burner because the original manufacturer of the burner no longer exists.
Exactly. They couldn't get parts. The original company's gone. Nobody could fix it. So they really had to outsource, and they actually built the burner we're using from different parts from companies that are in business, which saved us a lot of money than going out and buying a whole brand new burner to try to match it up to that old boiler. It wasn't an easy feat. So we did it the most fiscally responsive way and how to get us up and running to buy us more time, which it did. And we might go another 5 years and nothing goes wrong. It's hard to tell.
Thank you.
Stacy, it's Anna. I have a question. Or Scott, the electrical work for the sign out front, has there been any talk about it?
There has, and actually it's almost complete. Mr. Bard's been in a lot of conversation with the bank, and once they came out and they found out we didn't have the electricity we needed for the new sign, there was a lot of, okay, well, what do we need to do? How can we do it without spending a lot of money? We had several electricians come in. We had one from the school come in, and the bank I believe, or the sign company, one of the two, sent their own, and they came up with the same plan on what was best to do. And so we had our electrician do that work, and they worked on it this week. I can't tell you for sure that they 100% completed that, but I will check with our electrician to see if that's done and ready for the sign company to come out and install their sign. As far as cost, we were, I believe, splitting it with the bank on certain costs that we would have had to pay anyway, and the bank said they would eat some of the cost to upgrade the electricity out there. But as far as I know, we're just about there. It's almost done.
Right, and then I'll just chime in. Anna, this is Pete. The board, the bank is taking care. The total cost for the electricity work was $4,000. The bank said they would pay half. We would pay the other half. And then as soon as the electricity work is done, they said the sign company is ready to go to put the sign in, and the sign installation should take about a day. So in theory, we could have this done very, very quickly. It's just, and then once that's done, the bank will issue the check for us for the sign cost. We paid the sign up front and the electricity cost. So we can have that sign up and running very, very quickly, very quick turnaround. It's just we're waiting for the electricity work to be done. So as soon as Scott said it's done, I will call the bank and or my contact at the bank and let them know. They will call the sign company, and I'll give you guys a firm timeline when they're coming.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, if there's nothing else, we can adjourn the physical plant. All in favor?
Stacy, I don't think we voted to move things to the agenda yet.
I don't think that there is anything that we can move to the agenda.
Okay.
Okay, now we have our technology committee agenda. We have Mrs. Bibla as our chairwoman, Mrs. Haddix, and Mrs. McCurdy. Mrs. Bibla.
I'm going to seek approval for the minutes of June 10th for our technology committee meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Mrs. McCurdy? Any opposed? I think she's muted. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Mrs. Bibla.
Okay, I think Lauren's muted or something.
I tried to unmute her. She might not be there.
Okay, so we approve the minutes then. We only have a topic for discussion. We don't have any agenda items. Damien's going to give us a technology update.
Thank you, Mrs. Bibla. Yeah, I just wanted to go over a couple things that we're doing. Obviously, we've had a heavy influx of cyber Chromebooks for our Cyber Academy. Those are now current. We're looking to hand those out next week. So anyone that didn't get the memo, you can check our Facebook page. We are distributing the Cyber Academy only Chromebooks next week based on last name, and you can see all that on our Facebook page. We will be following that up shortly thereafter with our distant learning Chromebooks. So those are any individuals that would need Chromebooks now that we are transitioning to a virtual environment. So you'll get more information that from Mr. Mahalik and the rest of the department going forward. All servers have been updated. So we anticipated obviously some sort of hybrid or possible change, of course, due to COVID. So I went ahead and everything has been up to date and prepared for this. So we are ready infrastructurally. We are still obviously working on the website. I did want to take a quick minute to show some of you the template that we approved and the look that we're going for. That template will be is in final design. So what that means is it went from an image, which I'm going to show you now, into a fully functional website that's scheduled for September 10th. There will be a transition process to move the data from the old website to the new one. I'll be scrubbing some of that data and starting a little more minimal because I'd like to build out a little new and get rid of a lot of the stuff that made it, doesn't really need to be there anymore and make it organized. So I would like to show you that. I'm going to share well, actually, I'm already sharing my screen. I think it'll pop right over. So this is, realize this is an image. It is scrollable, so I'll show you some more. Any of the text that you see that looks like it's written in another language, that's called Greeking. That's just a placeholder so that we know where there's going to be text. But this will be what the new page will look like when you first go to our new website. You'll see, obviously, we're focusing a lot on imagery. We want to take away from a lot of text. This is going to help with mobile applications, which I'll show you some more. As you scroll down our page, you'll see that we did like the idea of having some of the key links. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that these 6 you see here will be the final ones, but this will, however, be a placeholder for some of the quick links for individuals coming to our site. As you move down, we'll have an announcement section. This will be specific, obviously, for major announcements. We are going for a side-scrolling process here, mainly to take away from just blasting stuff on the front of the site and having you scroll through pages and pages to find the most current announcement. Below that, you'll see a district news section. This, again, will be other placeholders for any of the news and elements that we have going on within the district, within the schools. Of course, then shortly below that, you'll see our calendar. This will be a snapshot of the day you're on and the coming days. And of course, when you go into the calendar, there'll be a lot more involved. It will have multiple calendars based on our buildings. You'll also be able to customize that calendar as a visitor to the webpage. So when you go to the page, if you make any adjustments to what you want to be seen on the calendar, we'll have several options there. It will save to your browser. So the next time you go from your home or work, it'll be the same as you left it. The last is just a little section that we're putting in. This is for just, random stuff that may come up. We talked about maybe putting the Twitter feed there, maybe some of our videos. This is just more of a placeholder section for us. This will again change. So this isn't the final, but this is more for some visual aids. And then at the bottom, we will have some imagery sections for students, anything else going on in the district. I know myself and several others like to be involved with some of the activities here. So as we get back to some normality, or even with the sports right now, whatever we can do, we'll put up here, and this will be a nice little placeholder for that. And then of course you have the footer. I will show you just some snippets of what it looks like as you go and activate some of the pieces. So first you'll see, obviously, if you weren't aware, we are building 4 websites. That's the district site, and then 1 for each of our physical buildings. We will be building out something for, of course, cyber, but this is kind of the main piece. So as you click the schools, you will have a drop down that will show you each of the buildings, and then these links will take you to their specific web pages. Again, they'll follow a very similar template look, but of course with different information provided to those actual buildings. This is just a basic look of what some of the pages that have more of a textual layout will look like, and how you can, break up adding calendars, and you can add different styles and colors. And this was more just to give us options as far as, to keep things uniform. So as we have more and more people editing the website from different departments and different buildings, we want to keep it uniform across each page. So everybody is kind of given a breakdown of the type of text and background colors they can use in order to just keep it uniform. So this is just a brief look of what pages could look like and how you can manipulate them. This was just a repeat page. This is what it would look like if you came to it from an iPad or a larger tablet. Obviously, we want to make this mobile friendly. We know a lot of our families and so forth use mobile devices. So this is to give you a little look of what it would look on an iPad. You'll see our social media at the top. You'll get a view of what it looks like, just like if you went to our page. Same thing, you'll get the quick buttons, the announcements, the news, the calendar, again, some content that we may lay in there, those 2 sections, and then of course the photos. I'm trying to keep it seamless between devices because I find that it seems a little bit obnoxious when you go to a website from a computer and then you go to it from a mobile device and it's entirely different. You can't find what you're looking for. So the menu and the drop down that you see in the corner will follow the same suit that the menu would on the main page of if you went to a desktop version of the site. And then of course, this is a little smaller version. This is what it would look like on smaller devices, i.e. iPhones or tinier phones. So I just wanted to give you a little look at that. Like I said, this will be finalized by the 10th, and then whatever the rollover time is to make it live, which I shouldn't suspect very long after that. So it will be live very soon. So this just gives you a little glimpse of what that looks like. Of course, then shortly following this will be the mobile app that will be, available to all our family members to download and all our faculty. And that will have options for our students to see things like grades, their, attendance and all those fun things. So that'll be the next build out, and I'll show you more as we proceed. Outside of that, that's all I have to update.
Thanks, Damien. Does the committee have any questions?
Nope.
Okay. Any questions from the board or administration?
I'd obviously like to thank Mr. Blanchard. The website is going to be such a welcome addition to the district. I know we've been limping along, Damien, for some time with the old website. Again, grateful that we were able to secure a donation. This website's being powered by, a great friend of our in our community. So those are the type of things that, will allow our families to better connect with us, and at the same time, in this case, not cost us anything. So again, thank you, Mr. Bard. You set up that opportunity, and Damien for all the work that's involved in not doing one site, but 4 sites. And I'm glad that you pointed that out. They're actually building 4 sites within the main Crestwood School District. So thank you.
Any questions from the public?
Yes, we have a few. The first question is from Sharon Colt-Baddock. Once the district moves meetings to YouTube, will the public be permitted to ask live questions? I object to the written submission of questions because my words are not presented as originally written. If a district as large as Scranton can successfully field 60+ questions presented live by the community, I'm confident CSD can do the same.
So I don't think, Dr. Back, that it's a matter of us not being able to field them. I think it's a matter of controlling the background noises and things of that nature. I've sat through some districts, and actually was on your board meeting. There's just so much noise, so much interference. It's confusing to follow. So we are absolutely live. And yes, we might not be able to hear your voice, but the words, we are trying to read them almost word for word because that's important. And you have a lot of great things to say and share, but it would just be, and again, I've been on those board meetings that have attempted to do it. It's just really, really difficult to follow with all the noise. And a lot of the noise is not intentional, but any little bump of, the people looking at their iPhones and things of that nature, it is really, really difficult for people to follow. And I've been through several other districts as I'm following other plans and things of that nature. I like this method. It's certainly within line of PSBA. I know it may be a little bit inconvenient, but we have the technology. We have the skill set to do it, but it would be very, very difficult to control the noise. Damien, are you speaking?
Oh, I'm sorry. I must not hit the button all the way. All right, there was one more question. Aileen Williams asked me, Damien, are you going to use a change management process to ensure the integrity since there are multiple editors? Yes, Aileen, we are. The back end of this site gives me full control over who and what they can edit. I can isolate it not only down by the specific website I'm building, but by the specific page. I can also even dial it in even tighter where I can limit what kind of content could be put up if I wanted to keep someone from putting up any multimedia and strictly text. So I can really dial down. I could even go as granular as locking someone down to a specific section of a site. So if I wanted to associate, somebody specifically to a portion of the calendar or a frequently changed section, I can do all that. So I will be making sure that that's managed appropriately. And that's all the questions we have.
Okay, I think we can adjourn technology.
Thank you, Mrs. Bibla. And we will now go into positive behavioral supports. And once again, we will have Mrs. Bibla as our chairwoman, Mrs. Haddix, and Mrs. Spath.
I'm seeking approval from the minutes of our meeting on June 10th. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. We don't have any agenda items, but we do have a topic for discussion. Bob, in the past, we've talked about the need for a social worker. So I just thought we could bring that up real quick, just so the board could hear it.
Sure, and we do currently have a social worker contracted to us about a day and a half a week. Certainly, we know that our needs are greater. We've put in a request for more from the intermediate unit. I know that that request is being considered, and obviously they have, several schools and only so many social workers. So, when we look at our needs and what we're getting for a day and a half, 2 days, and maybe even a possible 3 days, there's a possibility that we can bring somebody on as a district employee for 5 days at a cost similar, if not even a little less than what we have for somebody at 3 days. So it's a discussion point. Certainly we will have services available as we begin our school year. We will have mental health services, counseling services, all that will be in place. But I think as we go, the consideration for maybe expanding that service is would probably be good for us to really look at.
Does anyone from the committee have any questions?
Nope.
Anybody from the board or admin? Hearing none. Damien, do we have any public questions?
No, Mr. Bibla.
Okay, I think we can adjourn positive behavior.
Excellent, thank you. I do want to, okay, I think that's our last agenda for the evening. We do have a series of questions, a lot of them related to the distance learning and what we're going to do. As I said, what I'd like to do is this Wednesday evening, we are having a special town hall meeting for up to 500 participants. Mr. Blanchard will be sending out information on how to register. And at that time, we can answer all questions related to distance learning. We have now had 7 town hall meetings with hundreds and hundreds of members of our community present. We tape all those, put them on YouTube, and we're going to continue to communicate as much as possible. The one question I would like to respond, let me just see the question here regarding, I saw one here about right to know. I'm sorry, I'm just trying, Damien, do you see the right to know?
Yes.
Who's that from?
Sharon Baddock asked, what is the turnaround time frame for right to know submissions?
Turnaround for submission. So depending on what the request is, sometimes there's we call a 5-day letter that is sent and then followed up generally within 30 days, we have that information provided. Now, again, all right to knows, some may be not covered, and we can't legally provide that information. So we are always working with our solicitor when when a right to know comes in. Just another question about live questions. Again, I would just say we are giving the public the opportunity to ask any questions. Your questions are out there for the entire, for anybody who is on to see that. East Stroudsburg, Pocono Mountain are doing them live. I'm glad to hear that. I'm sure others are, and I'm standing by. There's a lot of noise. I've been a part of school board meetings now a lot longer than I could think, but I'm very proud of our communication. I'm very proud of how transparent this district is on all areas. Last week, we had a positive case that we were identified. It was an employee from our company, had absolutely no involvement with any of our employees or any students. The person was only on site for 1 day. They could not even track that the employee had been infected when he was here. But I will tell you that it was our decision to make that public. It's our decision to let the community know that we're taking the necessary steps to make sure everyone is safe, and the protocols that we took. So we're as forthcoming as a district can be. Not everything's always going to be to the liking of our viewers, and we understand that. We can't please everyone. I will tell you, I do not engage in social media because it's just, for me, I get where that comes from, and it's got a purpose and a point, but I'm not going to engage in it, and I'm not even going to look at it. I will say that the decision to go to remote learning was based upon the recommendations that came from the Department of Health and the Pennsylvania Department of Education. We were set to be fully returned on September 2nd. We had all the protocols that we believed were necessary, and what changed was the guidelines. Very significant changes. And if people say, well, you could still go to a hybrid model in the moderate zone, and that is true. However, you could also go to substantial. And can you imagine the disruption? If we're in moderate, we come back, and then we move to substantial. And if you look at the numbers in Luzerne County, and I have some very, very good trusted medical sources that I am relying on and are giving me what I know is up-to-date, accurate information, we are not far from being substantial in Luzerne County. And you may argue the system all you want. It's the system we have. It's a system we have to follow. So if it's being skewed by another area that has a lot more cases, you know, again, we don't make the system, but when you are getting strong recommendations from the Department of Health, Dr. Levine and her staff, and Pedro Rivera and his staff, I mean, you know, only a fool would not adhere to those. So that's my position. I can tell you our association, our professional staff, kudos to those people. They've been right with us all along, working side by side. Every day of this summer, they're working with us. I appreciate them, I respect them, and we're concerned about them as well, and have taken all of the information that has come through the association and used it to make everyone feel as comfortable as they can. So again, I get that people will be judgmental, and I'm fine with that. It comes with the territory. I've been here a long time, not necessarily Crestwood, but an elected official and an administrative official for the Department of Education, and comes with the territory. Thick skin we all must have, but I also have to correct when I hear just things that are blatantly incorrect. So with that, I thank this Board of Education for your continued support of the Crestwood School District, our families, our students. You know, I'll leave with this. I thought the class of 2020 got a little bit of a bum deal, although there's no doubt Crestwood responded in a way that few will ever witness again. But, you know, the class of 2021, let's keep in mind that this is not exactly starting off so great for them either. And we've got to be united. We got to be together because, you know, we want to make this the very best for that senior class and that incoming kindergarten class and every class in between. You know, we got to somehow have that Crestwood spirit that's been going on for many, many, many years and come out of this better than ever before. So with that, Mr. Blanchard, I will see if there's any last comments or questions.
The only question that came in was from John Klimick. Will Crestwood continue to follow the guidance after October 1st?
Absolutely. If it's a strong recommendation, and the wording which they have, you know, again, we were always under the guise of if feasible, when feasible, but those things have changed, and so with that, you know, we had to change. So we're going to continue to have our pandemic task team assembled and meet weekly. We are going to look at the data. We are going to continue to try to hopefully make the very best decisions. And while we're doing that, we know that our teachers and faculty and staff and related services will do their very best with what they are doing in distance learning and the Crestwood Cyber Academy. And but still a lot of logistics to discuss. You know, food service, for instance, 75,300 meals were served by the Crestwood School District since March 16th. Folks, if anything makes you be in awe of this district, it should be that. Over 600 and some meals a day prepared to our families, for our families. Unbelievable, that number, 75,300 going out to Whitehaven, going out to Slocum Township. That's the decision that this Board of Education made to ensure that we're doing, at the very least, making, giving nutrition to those kids and families that require it. So a lot of logistics to continue to through, and we are going to do that. And again, just appreciate the support of this community.
Thank you, Mr. Mahalik. And on behalf of the board, I want to thank the board for their time and diligence, preparing their agendas and presenting them for public review, as well as to you, Mr. Mahalik, your entire administrative staff. We greatly appreciate all the hard work that you do for our school community. And with that, I'll adjourn our committee meetings to set the agenda. I wish everyone a good evening and to take care and be safe. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
A great week. And